Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to share the inheritance with me." He replied to him, "Friend, who appointed me as your judge and arbitrator?" Then he said to the crowd, "Take care to guard against all greed, for though one may be rich, one's life does not consist of possessions." Then he told them a parable. There was a rich man whose land produced a bountiful harvest. He asked himself, "What shall I do? For I do not have space to store my harvest." And he said, "This is what I shall do. I shall tear down my barns and build larger ones. There I shall store all my grain and other goods, and shall say to myself, 'Now as for you, you have so many good things stored up for many years. Rest, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this night your life will be demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, to whom will they belong? Thus will it be for all who store up treasure for themselves, but are not rich in what matters to God.'" The Gospel of the Lord. One's life does not consist of possessions. Vanity of vanities, all things are vanity. Think of what is above, not of what is on earth. Our readings this weekend point to a very clear theme. Stuff won't make us happy, not in the long run at least. I think we all know this, at least in our heads, but we have trouble putting it into practice. I know that I, for one, am most guilty of this. I love the feeling of anticipation as I'm waiting for a package from Amazon to arrive. And when it does, that beautiful feeling of opening the package and checking out your new gadget or your new clothing or whatever it is, that feeling is too good to resist. But I also know from experience that the feelings are fleeting. The novelty of the new purchase wears off. These nice new things bring only a temporary joy and not lasting happiness. So what are we to do? Give up everything and sell it, give all the money to the poor? Perhaps that's the answer for some of you. Let's not throw that answer away too fast. I think there's many people that the Lord is calling to religious life, to bear witness to God by a radical poverty, following in the footsteps of St. Francis of Assisi or the countless other members of religious communities in our world. But for many of us here, our vocation's already solidified. We're already married and have kids. So what are we to do? For one thing, we're called to have a healthy relationship with material things. We're not to denounce them all as evil, because we know that God created the world and everything in it to be good and to be for our use. But we're to acknowledge that these material things aren't the highest good. They're not the goal of our lives. So how much is too much? How do I know when I have too many things? That's a difficult question to answer. But perhaps I can answer with a comparison. You see, tomorrow, me and my brothers, we're headed north for a backpacking trip. We've been preparing for this trip for months now, saddling our packs, walking through town, miles and miles, getting our feet and our shoulders ready to bear the load of all our gear mile after mile. One thing I've learned in my time of backpacking is this. I'm not going to carry anything in my pack unless I darn well need it. After the first couple of miles, you feel every pound in your pack. And if I could shave a few ounces, you better believe I would. And most of its weight is food and water. The next heaviest things are our tents and sleeping bags. Then, of course, we have our cooking stove, our fuel, the first aid kit, and you can't forget toilet paper. It's very necessary in the wild. We can't exactly do without those things. All these things are necessities. Everything else in our pack beyond these, we call luxury items. They're luxurious because you don't need them, but they make the trip a little nicer and more enjoyable. For my trip, my luxury item is a little hammock that I can string across trees and relax after a long, grueling hike. And I also bought a little tiny inflatable pillow because in trips past, stuffing a t-shirt into a sack made for a pretty poor pillow, and I started snoring and my brother was kept up all night long. And sleep is crucial to complete our trek. So luxury items can be nice, but they have to be worth the weight of carrying them. While my brothers and I are going on an actual journey, we shouldn't forget that we as Christians have already embarked on a spiritual journey. Some of us are very good about keeping our packs very light so that we can hike wherever the Lord leads us. But some of us have long since given up the hope of reaching the destination. We're content to stay camped where we are. We think it's too much trouble to inconvenience ourselves and to make ourselves uncomfortable for a little while for the sake of completing the trek. We've convinced ourselves that there are plenty of sights to see here at our little campground. Why go anywhere else? We're oblivious to the grandeur and the beautiful sights the Lord has prepared for us along the way, not to mention the final destination, the very reason for setting out in the first place. So this coming week, as I'm hiking through the wilderness, and as my feet are killing me because I should have left the hammock at home, I'll be praying for all of you. I'll be praying that you might unburden yourselves of some of the comforts and luxury items that you hold on to. I'll be praying that you might set out on the greatest journey of your life, the Christian journey. And I'll be praying that you reach the most breathtaking sight of all, the glorious face of our Heavenly Father. May God bless you all.